The man had swung his sword tens of thousands of times every day for 10 years, but the seemingly ordinary training had allowed him to develop a physique far beyond ordinary people. He could achieve the resonance of 1,000 swords with just one swing. However, even though he became a strong man, the hero still felt too weak because he practiced parrying, which everyone knew. In addition, he had no talent at all in other areas of the lowest level adventurer. But even so, the hero still did not give up thinking. Remembering his mother's last words before she left, he wanted to live according to his own wishes, so from then on the man was determined to become an adventurer. He went down the mountain and entered the city for the first time. Under the guidance of the guard soldiers, Nohr successfully achieved the adventurer. The guild president refused to apply for the adventurer qualification because he was still young and this profession was very dangerous. Your parents will be worried. Nohr said that both of his parents had died, and seeing that the other party was also a poor child, the guild president only suggested that Nohr go to the guild who wanted to apply to join the Adventurers Guild in the capital. The kingdom can receive training at the Wangli Training Center. If you really want to be an adventurer, he suggested learning some skills first and then come back. In his mind, first when I arrived at the live training center, the first thing I had to practice was swordsmanship. According to what the other, but unfortunately, he did not learn any decent skills until the end. He felt disbelief that it was impossible to open an adventurer camp without skills, so he had no choice but to persuade Nohr to stop. After returning home, Nohr said that as long as you swing the sword in your hand every day, you have the opportunity to learn new skills. Day by day, time passed very quickly. After a year, another 10 times. 10 years later, Nohr just waved his hand lightly, and the forest shook all day long. Now he could dance with 1,000 swords, but even so, he still hadn't learned any new skills. He wanted to challenge one last time. Then he came to the long-lost Adventurers Guild and saw the 6 skills according to the report. But in fact, each of them is the lowest skill, so the front desk really can't register. Seeing that more than in the following days, the male protagonist would do some housework in the city every day. Even the smallest trivial tasks would be completed on time. He thought that this just killed a cow in the city and casually took the life of a girl. As a result, he was intercepted by a girl to thank him. He had just killed a cow and there was no need to make such a big deal. Nohr repeatedly refused, but the girl insisted on repaying her life-saving grace. Because her true identity was the princess of this country, who had received excellent education since she was a child. Nohr was obliged to accept her gift, but Nohr was unwilling. Then the girl did not want to leave this place before Nohr accepted it. Nohr had no choice but to agree to the request. Then according to the girl's instructions, they arrived at a mausoleum. That's when the girl remembered to introduce herself. However, because her real name was very long, Nohr only needed to call her Lin Jike. Nearby buildings and surrounding guards. Guessing that the girl was from a noble family, just when he was feeling a little emotional about this, a yellow-haired knight stopped them. Still showed great vigilance, and then let him. We went to see the king together, but we didn't expect that not long after we walked, another man with a stick appeared, and the man pointed his gun directly at the hero without saying a word. However, he had heard about this for a long time, but he did not expect that the rumored man was actually just a village woman. Wenyan Wangmao asked the other party to restrain himself, and he had to go to the night meeting with him and wait for the hero and his entourage to arrive at the main house. The brother behind the hall found that his sister was actually wearing a protective robe, which meant that she had slipped out again. However, Lin said that she would find her helper no matter what. Only after hearing this, did the king understand what he was complaining about. The man was Lin's savior. He who knew nothing about aristocratic etiquette, thought he would be laughed at. Unexpectedly, the king not only let his rudeness go, but even went forward to shake his hand and thank him. He wanted to give Nohr some territory and money as a reward. However, he never expected that Nohr would refuse directly, whether it was money or territory. This surprised the king, so he changed his mind and said that he would give some territory and money from the maze. What about the treasure? The treasure dug out of this maze will be stored in the treasure store. You can take half of it. Although it sounded very tempting, Nohr still refused because he really didn't want anything. He didn't expect his gift to be rejected. The king didn't need to think about what good things to give him for this. Maybe other gifts were more suitable for this weapon than some external objects. So without hesitation, the king decided to give the sawtooth sword as a gift to the man. Although its appearance looked tattered, it was much harder than steel. At the same time, this was also the weapon the king used when he was young. Rather than letting it continue to sleep, the king felt that the weapon should be handed over to someone more useful. After successfully taking over, Nohr also felt that this weapon was quite heavy. He accepted his gift from the king. With the sword, the king asked him to try it.
重いな。だが触れないほどでもない。
盾で触れるか。そいつは本当に頑丈だぞ。
では使おう。
In addition, the king actually had another request, that is, he hoped to be his son's teacher. After all, he would be a little worried after his son had the last attack. After all, he was just a villager. And this kind of thing should be decided by himself. The king also agreed with the man's point of view. After expressing his gratitude again, Nohr also left here smoothly. There was still something that made Nohr not understand that he had just killed a bull. How could he be so enthusiastic? However, what Nohr didn't know was that what he killed was not an ordinary bull, but a special monster bull, deep in the maze. Just when he was confused, the yellow-haired knight suddenly stopped him. It turned out that he apologized unreasonably, but as the princess's guard, he failed to do so, ensure her safety. He even neglected the etiquette of hospitality, so he hoped to get Nohr's forgiveness and also know each other's names. Of course, Nohr was happy with this. Immediately after saying that there were some things that had not been resolved, he immediately left the place. Just when Nohr felt a little confused, suddenly the man carrying the stick came to her again.
俺はギルバートだ。ってくれよ。そう欲しいと思ってね。
The man never expected that he, the strongest spearman in the world, had not tasted a bow for more than 10 years, but the appearance of a villager today directly caused him to suffer the first defeat in his life, no matter what kind of attack he used. His opponent could always skillfully dodge, which made him confused. He knew that his speed was as fast as lightning. Even his master, the sword master, might not have been able to keep up with him just now, when he won with a weapon for the first time. During the competition, he already knew that he was invincible. In order to pursue a stronger opponent, he did not hesitate to travel across mountains and rivers to the imperial capital, just to find a strong person who would make him happy. But after looking back, he realized that no matter where he was, there was still no one in this world. The only person who could compete with him and catch his attention was the sword master. But right now, the villager in front of him was breaking his record. At first he thought it was a problem with his fighting style, but until he retaliated, he was still beaten. It was not simple, so he decided not to hide his strength anymore and planned to use his own unique skills. And this made him even more shocked. After Nohr left here without looking back, Gil was still thinking about who the man was. He clearly didn't feel any courage in the other person, but he was able to defeat Nemotanos alone. He even accidentally avoided his strongest move. Although he knew that using this move against a human would probably kill him, at that time it was the only way to meet him. The first step in his life. The first time he lost in a head-to-head duel, he was completely helpless. While he was thinking about this, Jill suddenly found some cracks in the ground.
なんだ、あの亀裂は。どうやってやったかはわからねえ。俺の全力の技を。やっと楽しくなりそうだ。
On the other hand, the male protagonist also recalled the battle just now. He thought that after 14 years of hard training, he would have made some progress. If it weren't for the full use of physical strength and stealth, he would have died. After realizing that he was weak, Nohr also decided to train himself further, so he continued to work on the Sundry's commission the next morning. He found that it was perfect for cleaning the ditch. The coloring effect was good and the appearance was not damaged at all. The material was harder than steel. However, although the work of cleaning the ditch went smoothly, Nohr lost his job at the construction site because of the previous incident. Because he could only accept the F level. So if there was no need for the job of the king, Nohr would have nothing to do, so he thought about what to do next. He didn't want to find it. Suddenly at this time, and seeing the woman appear here strangely, Nohr also thought about it. I know what you were looking for, and after asking, the woman really came to be Nohr's servant, but more precisely should be his apprentice. It turned out that Lin had already had the idea of becoming an apprentice after seeing Nohr's strength. He graduated from the Royal Capital Training Institute, but after meeting Nohr, he realized that he still had a lot to learn. When he heard that he wanted to be his student, Nohr refused, not because he didn't want to teach him, but because he really had nothing to teach him. Lin thought it was a matter of strength, so in order to make Nohr believe him, he immediately said that he would show off his skills to Nohr.
これが私の使える最高位の魔術セルフレアです。おぼろ刀。奥義です。陰性のカルー先生よりで、そしてディバインスラッシュ。 今のはソードマンの請求。アンデッドに特に効果の高い特殊な技では弟子入りの許可を。
ダメだ。
Nohr originally had low self-esteem. After seeing that the child knew so many skills, it made him feel even more embarrassed. The child still did not give up and promised that he would be able to teach him. Helping him, seeing that the opponent did not hit the wall and did not look back, Nohr decided to use his skills to persuade him to retreat. However, it didn't matter if he didn't let go. Nohr's powerful fire skills immediately shocked Lin. It wasn't that he was surprised because the fire was too weak. On the contrary, it was because he was too strong. Nohr's fire power was stronger than ordinary fire power. It took years to achieve it. However, the fire technique had reached great success, and the other 5 skills had also reached the same level. It could be said that having extraordinary strength in the 6 major classes was a very strong person. Lin deeply felt that he was wrong because he thought he was too shallow in Nohr's eyes, and wanted to show off once he learned the new Minotaur skill, but he never showed off the strength he had. Instead, he worked silently and hard for others. It was said that he was strong not only in terms of strength, but also in terms of spirituality, that a person could live strong and would not give in to anyone. In the future, he would lead this country with his brother, so the top priority was to sigh for that person, so he thought about all this. Later, Lin Dangwan found him, then again, and revealed how arrogant and immature he was in the past.
いつの日かあなたの弟子と認めてもらうで。それまでずっとあなたのノール様、いえノール先生。
先生。
私の追い求めた答えでクレイス王家が代々求めた市場の強さがだから。
そうなら。
So the next morning, Nohr had no choice but to agree. However, he was still a little uncomfortable hearing an extraordinary person call him teacher. Trying to clear up the misunderstanding, things would change. So Nohr decided not to explain it anymore and instead took him to the union to take some commissions. As long as he could get along with him for a while, the kid would definitely understand that he didn't have much ability. Then they came to the union and saw the princess. When they were together with Nohr, this surprised the president, thinking that the woman had caused some trouble. Nohr said that it was difficult to explain the reason. Fortunately, not investigating other people's secrets was a risky business. The president would not force him to do anything, and he would only treat others as he had heard when he came to accept the 2-person mission. After all, one was an F class and the other was a B class. The difference in strength between the 2 parties was indeed too great to form a team. It just so happened that there was a mission to exterminate goblins on the outskirts of the royal capital recently. When it comes to goblins, it can be said that this is the most suitable monster for adventurers to use in training. So, Nohr still couldn't accept this mission with the F level. However, considering the face of Yulin, a B level adventurer, he would make an exception and hand this task to Nohr. When he heard that he could also do tasks outside the city, this made Nohr happy. But then he turned around and thought, isn't this Lin's identity disguise? It was really embarrassing for his strong self, so he left. But then again, Nohr was also very curious about what Lin would think. After all, would anyone really cooperate with him, who was useless? The woman's opinion also said that she didn't know at all. As long as the question was something that could help the teacher, she would try her best to do it. After getting Lin's affirmative answer, this also made Nohr decide that there was not much chance of realizing his dream if he was not strong-willed.
それじゃ行ってくる。待てって、まだ行き先も何も伝えてねえだろ。じゃあ受けるんだな。
Then, after stamping the seal, the president also reminded Nohr that low-level creatures like goblins also pose a certain threat to humans. However, since their numbers have suddenly decreased recently, it doesn't matter if there are none, pick a few when the time comes. The medicinal herbs can be returned. After hearing the president's instructions, the 2 of them also started to go to the Warcraft forest. The trees here are very tall, similar to the southern forest that he often goes to. Lin also explained that the ecology here is different from other places. But there are also intelligent creatures like goblins, although they usually only live there. They make a living by eating tree fruits or preying on some small animals, but sometimes humans become their prey. Therefore, in order to prevent excessive damage, adventurers will regularly clean up some goblins to adjust the population. After hearing popular science, Nohr also had a certain understanding of this. Then they went deep into the forest, but what Lin didn't expect was that there was no sign of goblins appearing. Usually, they have appeared since then. Just when he thought the rumors of the decline in the number of goblins were true. Unexpectedly, Lin suddenly felt the presence of a monster in front of them, so went in to see if it was a goblin. They continued to walk further into the forest. However, before walking for a while, Lin felt the presence of the monster had disappeared, found that there seemed to be something in front of him. When they took a closer look, it turned out to be the lower body of a goblin. Lin quickly used concealment, but in the next second, a giant goblin suddenly appeared in front of them. This was obviously beyond Nohr's imagination. She had heard that goblins were the weakest creatures, but I never thought that adventurers would call them the weakest. They were tall and forgot about them. The point is that they can also use props to deal with the roar of the giant goblin. Lin's B level is already all over her body. The trembling collision of the sword also made the male protagonist feel that he could not be blamed. After all, no matter how talented he is, he may not have much actual combat experience. Immediately encouraged Lin not to be afraid that this is just a goblin, and he immediately showed off. Then the giant goblin also made a few moves. Facing the opponent's fierce attack, Nohr used his parry skills to block it. He had practiced this move for 14 years, so he could barely resist it. That's when he did while doing damage. Lin also began to deal magic attack damage. The giant goblin just shook it casually and avoided all attacks. When shocked by this, his opponent was also the same. A piece of wood was thrown out, but at the critical moment, Nohr blocked it in time, giving Lin a chance to observe. At this time, Nohr thought of a way. After successfully hitting the giant goblin's weakness, Lin successfully obtained the ruby. Without the permission of the gem, the opponent's combat effectiveness was greatly weakened. The next step was the final battle. He immediately used high-level fire magic to successfully kill it. After killing the giant goblin, the two of them breathed a sigh of relief. However, because of this experience, Nohr gave up the short-term task of eliminating the goblin. However, what he didn't know was the truth. What he was fighting was not an ordinary goblin, but the legendary Goblin Emperor, which was a subspecies of the Goblin King. It was an illegal research that had been banned until now. Someone deliberately sent the goblin to investigate who the mastermind was. Lin gave this ruby to his brother. Based on the magic power in it, they speculated that the mastermind behind it might be the Demon Island Empire. Maybe they intended to provoke a war between the two countries. It turned out that the Minotaur was also their masterpiece to occupy the kingdom's labyrinth resources. The Demon Island Empire had submitted a request to hand over the power of the labyrinth a few months ago. They would also provide some military support even though the king didn't say it at the time. Although he refused, it seemed that the enemy would not give up. However, the more the prince thought about it, the more curious he became about how the enemy had transported such a large object into the kingdom. If summoning magic was used, the royal capital's induction network should have detected it long ago. Could there be a spy inside? Just as he had a vague guess, the two of them had successfully returned to the Union president. He did not expect that the once weak child could now attack the goblins. Only then did Nohr remember that he had burned it to ashes. I told him not to forget to bring it back. The man never expected that he had practiced fending for 14 years, but in the end he found that he couldn't even beat a frog in the field. He didn't know that the scene in front of him had shocked them, because only they knew what this was. What kind of frogs were in the ground? On the contrary, they were black death dragons that brought death to all living things. Just the poisonous gas emitted from the surroundings could make everything wither. The adventurers couldn't resist it. However, Nohr didn't know this until his death. I thought it was a problem with my own strength. It turned out that not long ago, after successfully completing the mission to conquer the goblins, the brother found the two of them, hoping that Nohr could help him escort Lin to a town in a remote mountainous area. It would be accompanied by a carriage and bodyguards. Still agreed, thinking it was just a job like transporting goods. After all, this time it was also a commission through the Union, and the president also said that he would talk about it for him. He enjoyed this trip quietly. However, compared to the huge reward, the real reason why Nohr accepted this commission was simply because he had never taken a carriage before. Seeing this as a rare opportunity, he would naturally do it. Although she was a little happy about this, Lin looked a little sad at this time because her bodyguard this time was actually Ines, which made her feel that this trip was not that simple. That's right. Ines did have a prince. He had a secret order, but he couldn't tell the princess that he knew the kingdom would be in crisis. Ines apologized to Nohr. At first, they didn't want to involve him, but no one was available. Nohr felt that the child was making a fuss. Wasn't there no need to put on such a sad face? Ines didn't respond. There wasn't much of an answer and only said that when danger came, he would do his job well. After that, he showed a green shield, an ability that Ines had acquired since he was a child. When he was still in the orphanage, he discovered that he had extraordinary powers. Their power even worried the 6 heads of the kingdom at that time. A blessing that God had given him, and it was a very rare blessing because it could be a sharp blade that cut everything, a shield that protected one side, or even a shield that protected a city. The shield could easily destroy a country, so in order to help the king's child by controlling this power, the shield saint adopted him as an adopted son and learned to use the power. Under the teachings of the 6 saints, he eventually became the successor of the saints. The next shield combat mission, Warcraft, they were in trouble, but the shield saint accidentally mentioned Nohr's name and said that it would be great if he was here. As soon as these words came out, Ines suddenly felt a wonderful feeling in her heart. Obviously he was still here. Obviously she had never seen the man, but she seemed jealous, and then the man actually appeared in front of her.
このような感情に心をざわつかせたわ。私はクレイスを命をかけてお守りする。それが私の使命。
But at this moment, Nohr suddenly felt that there was something wrong with the plants in front of him. It seemed that something was moving. At this moment, he also noticed the abnormality on the ground, so the boy immediately used the concealment elimination magic. Then the next second, a monster appeared out of thin air, and what was even stranger was that there seemed to be a human standing near the monster. He had hesitated before, but Nohr immediately raised his sword and rushed forward. When the boy was about to die, Nohr felt that he was blocked by the monster. After the attack, he started fighting with the monster. The boy was there. He only appeared after being hit to remove his concealment, and he was with the Black Death Dragon, which meant they were not humans but demons, have special abilities and can have the same mind as monsters. It is recorded that they control cruel monsters and almost destroy a country. Therefore, the demons have obviously been driven out by humans, but now they still exist. He conveyed information that the Black Death Dragon usually only appears in the swamp. Ines was very sure that the man had the intention of bringing the monster to the royal capital. He was very surprised, until losing control of the Black Death Dragon. Because the Black Death Dragon's poison spread throughout his body, and as expected, his opponent would spit out poison. Nohr originally wanted to avoid it, but thinking that the boy behind him would suffer a lot, he had to use his sword to block it, but that didn't stop him. No matter when Nohr came to, he was already poisoned by a powerful poison. The most terrifying thing about the Black Death Dragon. That was also the reason why Ines didn't let the princess go to help, because once she was poisoned by the Black Death Dragon, she would die instantly. Now all he could do was protect the princess.
まさか。
こんな時あいつが。
そういうことか。あれこそが私がずっと憧れ追い求めたことの盾だがもう
On the other side, the royal capital is also in a fierce battle. Although all the 6 saints have fought, they can hardly control the situation for the labyrinth resources, and will not hesitate to cause a war between the 2 countries.
本当に脅し文句通りのことをしてくるのだな。まだ序の口です。だろうな。
The Black Death Dragon never expected that the person who had inhaled a large amount of his poisonous gas would stand in front of him unscathed. His poison was the most poisonous in the world without any injuries. But not only was he poisoned, he even had the strength to fight him. However, what he didn't know was that Nohr had actually removed the poison in his body long ago. Nohr accidentally ate a poisonous pill when he was a teenager. He thought that the plant would only cause a stomachache at most, but he didn't expect it to directly cause vomiting blood. Treatment before fainting, and then he saved a small life. Later, while browsing the book, Nohr found what he had eaten last time. It was Melancong. When he met Mirancong again, Nohr also chose to stay away. But he didn't want anything to bite him at this time. When he looked back, he found that it was a poisonous snake on his buttocks. Nohr was poisoned and fainted again. But the strange thing was that when he woke up again, he found that nothing had happened. What Nohr didn't expect was that when he brought the snake back for dinner, he found that the poisonous snake was actually very delicious. So to test her endurance, Nohr caught another snake and bit her arm the next day. Sure enough, the poison spread faster than yesterday. Nohr felt the opportunity to gain new skills. From then on, she began to actively search for poisonous creatures to eat. However, she made a new discovery, which was that poisonous creatures were actually very tasty. In other words, the poisonous frog in front of Nohr was most likely tasty too.
こんなにでかくて危険なカエルがいるとはな。毒ガエル、相当うまいかもしれないぞ。
After successfully dealing with the frog in front of her, Nohr quickly came to the boy and asked how he could appear here. The boy also admitted that he brought the monster because he had made an appointment with someone to bring him to the city. Nohr seemed to have understood something. Since the other party had taken the trouble to bring her to the city, it meant that the frog did have real talent. Fresh meat. He used concealment to hide his tracks at the beginning, most likely because he considered the surrounding environment. Maybe it was just a frog carefully raised by someone else, but he destroyed the important things sent by the child. Then, he immediately apologized to the boy, which also surprised the princess, but rather than how to tell Nohr. She still wanted to know how the boy brought this kind of creature. After knowing that the child could control the monster, Nohr was a little surprised that such a small child could actually control it. It turned out that such a big frog did have such abilities in the world.
僕まあそこで魔族はみんなそういうことができて。
ああ、つまりその魔族というのはそういう能力を持った部族で。
They chatted directly. Nohr was even more envious because she didn't know how many times she had thought about having this skill. After all, not only could she ask animal friends to help move the floor, but she could also control birds to deliver messages. Moreover, at night, no need to worry about being attacked by stray dogs while sleeping. Ask her if she doesn't hate demons. Some people will be afraid or disgusted with this ability. Facing doubts, this also surprised Nohr. In her eyes, this was nothing to worry about, because no matter what others said, this was an ability that could help many people. And also surprised the child because this was the first time someone had spoken to him. Saying such words and remembering the previous abuse made the child unable to hold back anymore.
本当に僕でも世界に必要とされることなんてあるのかな。
俺と違い、裏切る状況じゃないのかもしれないが、この子ならきっとすぐに。あ、俺なんかよりずっとお前が望めばいく。
But at this time, Lin and Ines, who had been waiting for a long time, finally ran over and immediately wanted to cure Nohr. Unexpectedly, the princess saw that she was fine. This also surprised the two of them because it was terrible. This was not a simple deadly poison, but a flatulence that could corrode everything. It was safe unless it was refined into a holy weapon. It was a body that had been cultivated to be like a saint. The energy emitted by the soul could purify everything that came into contact with it. It could only be achieved after deviating from conventional practices. Even the royal saint spent 40 years to achieve it, but Nohr had achieved it at a young age. Although they felt incredible about this, they also found that this little boy was a white-haired child. There was no doubt that he was a child of the demon clan. So Lin wanted to ask Nohr how to deal with it. Finished saying, Ines said something was wrong. After all, the opponent was a dangerous race that had to be exterminated, and that appearance should have shown that he was a young warrior who was exploited for profit. He couldn't bear to leave his opponent like this. If possible, he should at least be killed. He was sent to the nearest city to ensure safety, but seeing Nohr in such a miserable condition made Lin feel a little guilty. What his father taught him, do not be fooled by rumors, but believe your own eyes first. From the beginning, he was very afraid of this young man. He only saw that he was a race that people said was evil, but he did not expect the princess to also understand that the skinny boy had no purpose. So after thinking things through, he also wanted to ask Ines to take this boy with him. The country they were going to next was strictly forbidden for demons to enter. It would be difficult to take them with them. Moreover, even if they stayed in a city on the way, they would probably have a hard time surviving because of their status as demons.
分かっている。彼を連れて行けばミスラ峡谷の敵として攻撃されるか。
おかしいな。そいつもうとっくに死んでる頃だと思ってたんだがな。